You're listening to a podcast from The Word.
So, very sad to hear about the death of Bob Newhart at the age of 94.
94.
And it was only about 10 years ago that I discovered to my surprise that he was kind of still with us, because he was such a figure at the beginning of the 60s in the kind of advent of gramophone records, of comedy gramophone records. And he's the beginning of that whole thing. He had the first comedy record to be number one in the United States, which is The Button-Down Mind of Bob Newhart.
That was the first really significant big hit for a comedy record.
It was the first one to go to number one, and it started a boom which continued throughout the 60s, really, via people like Alan Sherman and all kinds of individuals. But he's a fascinating story, Bob Newhart, because he was just a guy in Chicago. He was just an accountant, basically, who made comedy tapes for the amusement of himself and his friends.
Worked in advertising?
Well, kind of. He was an accountant, basically.
Yeah.
An accountant. He had a really dull job, which he didn't like doing at all. He wasn't even a properly qualified accountant, but he had this sideline doing this stuff, which people thought was funny. And basically, the idea was, in every case, he was speaking one end of a phone conversation that you had to imagine the other side of the conversation. So all the funny stuff was coming from the person who didn't speak at all,
So he had to he would repeat, wouldn't he, what he'd heard?
He'd repeat what he'd just heard. And anyway, at this point, Warner Brothers Records had just been started a couple of years earlier by Jack Warner as a kind of offshoot of the movie studio, and was catastrophically unsuccessful. It was legendary in the music business, just utterly hopeless. They don't have a clue. They can't sell anything at all. And Jack Warner wanted to close Warner Brothers Records because they'd lost a fortune and it wasn't looking good for him. At this point, their distributor in Chicago, got in touch because he'd heard Bob Newhart's tape and he thought there might be something in it. And so the guy from Warner Brothers Records flew out to Chicago, listened to the tape, and said, "This is quite good, this, actually." He said, "I'll tell you what, we'll record you at your next nightclub gig." At which point, Bob Newhart said, "I've never played a nightclub. I've never gone on a stage in my life. I just do this." He hadn't done it. So
he'd never done a live show. He's just done those tapes for his mates. That's incredible.
Done the tapes for his mates. So they were not dismayed at all. And in February 1960, they flew him down to Houston, Texas, and the accountants counted every dollar and cent in this thing because they thought this is not going to go anywhere at all. It was like $12 stay in a hotel or whatever, all kind of thing. They booked him into a club called the Tidelands in Houston, and he went on in front of an audience for the first time in his life. And he did that for a week or so. And then they recorded him, one of those shows. And that became The Button-Down Mind of Bob Newhart, which went on to top the charts in the United States.
It was number one.
And save Warner Brothers Records.
Absolutely.
Because it didn't just top the charts. It stayed at number one for like 12 weeks or something. And I think eventually they did a follow-up behind The Button-Down Mind of Bob Newhart, which went to number two. And then to number one, and then Bob Newhart, the original album, was number two. It's absolutely extraordinary. And so basically the ideas were they had, Abraham Lincoln's press agent, isn't he, phoning him before Gettysburg.
It's fantastic. And he says things like, "Abe, you can't shave off the beard. It's part of your image." And he's talking to him about writing, and he says something like, "Look, friends, Romans and countrymen, I've got something I want to tell you. That doesn't sound so good." He's talking about the importance of words. It's just brilliant, I think.
And he has, on one of these records, an agent listening to Walter Raleigh.
Oh.
It was explaining what he's brought back from the New World. And because he's brought back the potato,
there's turkeys, isn't it?
Yes.
And now he's got this leaf that you kind of, he says, "What do you do? We got loads of leaves here already. You've got 80 tons of this stuff, and you have to roll it up and put it in paper and put it in your mouth and then set fire to it."
Absolutely. And then, of course, the best known one of the lot, which was just an absolute staple on request programs of British radio in the days before the Beatles was the driving instructor.
Yeah.
And in every case, it's quite interesting. If you listen to all the Bob Newhart early routines, they're largely, the character is trying to use positive reinforcement on a pupil who has done something absolutely catastrophically wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just that faintly exasperated tone of the boss who's trying not to be the boss, you know.
Yeah.
And it was immensely successful. And of course, ordinarily, in a case like this, you'd say, and then he disappeared. But he didn't. Bob Newhart hung on in American show business right up until his death the other day, really, at the age of 94. He had a huge TV series in the 70s. He had a huge TV series in the 80s. And he was always popping up, even latterly. You know, he'd pop up as a guest of Conan O'Brien, or, you know, he was very much idolized by the later generation of writers and
in films too, because I just couldn't resist seeing what Sky and what the kind of popular press has kind of said about him passing. He's described as the elf and the Big Bang Theory actor dies. You know, so that's the classic thing, isn't it?
Of course, he was in Elf, wasn't he? Yeah,
he was.
The one thing I've got to add, which I think is so interesting and so sweet and endearing, is that so he died in 94, and he was his closest friend, not just in show business, but in life, was another comic, Don Rickles, who died, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago. And the two of them met many, many years ago, and they got on like a house on fire, and their wives also got on with each other. And so they used to spend all the spare time together. They used to go on holidays together. They had holiday homes near each other.
Oh, it's so lovely.
They didn't want anybody else coming round. They were perfectly happy, just the four of them, you know. And the amazing thing is, when you know that, what's amazing is Bob Newhart's comedy was sweet and gentle.
Completely.
Don Rickles' comedy was savage and brutal. Yeah. He was the attack dog of American comedy. You know, he was the man you got in when you wanted to roast Frank Sinatra or Dean Martin or whatever. Could not have been more different. And yet these two guys and their wives were absolute kindred spirits and, you know, immensely close to each other. And I can't think of a better way of proving the thing that we keep on returning to in these podcasts. It's an act. It's all an act.
Completely.
You know what I mean? The people say, how could Don Rickles, abrasive Don Rickles, get on with gentle Bob Newhart? Well, because Bob Newhart wasn't all gentle and Don Rickles wasn't all abrasive.
All savage.
You know.
Or possibly they both admired that thing and the other. No, completely an act. I couldn't agree more. So there's that lovely quote that you found about him saying that he enjoyed the business of pacing up and down before he went on stage. And it's that idea that people don't give up these things because they're absolutely addicted to adrenaline, aren't they? It's just as hard for footballers. It's just as hard for musicians. We were talking about this morning, you and I, it's just as hard for Joe Biden or politicians to give all that up.
Absolutely.
It's extraordinary.
And the interesting thing about the Bob Newhart quote was that he realized late in life, you know, and this must have been in his 80s, when he was still doing stand-up, he realized that the thing he liked about it was also the thing that frightened him about it. You know? It was, you can't have one without the other, you know. It's related to that thing that Bruce Springsteen once said to me in an interview. He says, there's a world of love and there's a world of fear, and they're the same world. And that's really good point. Yeah. You can't have one without the other. So Bob Newhart, what an innings.
I must just mention just one quote, which is so beautiful. Where I was just reading an obituary this morning, and it was so pricelessly funny. And his quote was, he said, I don't like country music, but I don't mean to denigrate those who do. And for people who like country music, denigrate means put down.
The Word Podcast. Prime cuts of popular culture served fresh each week.
We've both been watching clips of someone I wasn't fully aware of, actually, Ingrid Andress, who's a 32-year-old country singer, who appeared last week at the Globe Life Field in Arlington, Texas, at the Major League Baseball's home run derby, and it was her kind of risky lot, actually, to sing the national anthem. And I guess a lot of people listening might have seen clips of it. It was just, when people tell you someone sung something really badly, you just have to look and just see how badly. This was described, wasn't it, as a train wreck, as being utterly catastrophic, described as nerve shredding. And she's completely off the pitch. She's horrendously kind of melismatic with the tune and wobbling about, and the words aren't very clear. And at one point, I mean, there are players just looking at each other going, what?
Yes,
what was happening?
Yeah, the director, obviously, it's quite interesting, actually. The director thinks, I can't keep her in shot.
No, I've got to get a reaction shot.
Well, he's probably not even thinking reaction shot. He's just thinking, I'm going to get shots of the crowd. And what he gets is shots of people going, what is going on? During the national anthem, which, of course, ordinarily people are immensely respectful and so forth.
Incredibly respectful.
And
it's extraordinary. And then very soon afterwards, she posted, she's an interesting character because she's part of her public image as being a bit of a lush, actually. Didn't she do a song called Positive Drinking? I can't remember now. There's
Wishful Drinking, is it, or something like that? I can't remember.
That's right. And she talks about being a bit of a boozer. But her apology was, and now, these days, you can't just apologise. You have to apologise extravagantly.
Yes, you do.
You can't just say, I was a bit drunk, although she did look very, very drunk, actually. You have to say, I was drunk and I'm going to a facility tomorrow to get the help that I require.
Yes.
So she did all that, but it just was an extraordinary thing. And it also made you think about that whole nature of, setting aside how drunk she was, the whole nature of singing in that certain way.
Yeah, absolutely.
That there's two ways you can look at it. I mean, there was a kind of trend for melismatic singing, and I guess that would have started with Black Gospel or Sam Cooke or whatever, and then, Stevie Wonder, and then it was Whitney Houston and various other people, Christina Aguilera, and it's just become an R&B thing, hasn't it? That kind of riffing on notes and just taking the tune and going off into great soliloquies of random self-expression. But you think this is more than that, don't you? You think it's more than just melisma? I
think it's quite interesting. I hadn't heard of her before, and I went looking her up, and I'm not sure how country she is, really.
She's a pop star, really.
Country music has kind of changed massively.
Oh, yeah.
In all kinds of ways. But she's in the, in the kind of mold of, I don't know, a Katy Perry or whatever, Christina Aguilera, I think I sent you a track to you this morning where it was, it's called Ladylike, I think. And it just struck me, it's one of those kind of anthems where, the verse is all about how wretched I am. And then the chorus is all about, but I will prevail.
Yes.
Absolutely everything. And it struck me watching it. This is kind of empowerment porn, this kind of thing. This is now the way you sell those kind of records, So you're no longer singing the song. You're the hero or heroine of the song. That's the deal. It's more like a dramatic performance. And it's more like a kind of hammy dramatic performance. Sorry?
What's the template for that? Is that kind of I Will Survive or something? Is it or?
Well, no, that's I Will Survive. It's like 50 years ago, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I'm trying to think of songs where,
it's Whitney Houston songs, it's I Will Always Love You. It's those kind of things. It's swearing that things will be eternal. When everything in life around us suggests that it's not eternal at all.
That it's not eternal.
The only eternal thing are Bob Newhart and Don Rickles' marriages. There aren't many of those around. But the other thing is, this is now referred to in some quarters as cursive singing. Which is a parallel with the handwriting style, cursive, where you join up all the letters. And so the idea is you sing in that way. And what that does, when you join up all the sounds and the letters, it has the effect of making the sense of the song as unintelligible as possible, but also making you, the singer, seem as if you have a massive issue that we should sympathize with. Do you know what I mean? It's massively drawing attention to the singer rather than the song. That's what I think is going on.
Oh, that's completely right. I always used to feel that a little bit with K.D. Lang, who I like very much, actually. But K.D. Lang had developed a style of kind of furrowed brow and trembling lower lip. Do you know what I mean? And an incredible emotional intensity. And the thing about the performance was she was constantly reminding you of the levels of self-expression she was reaching for, you know. And, it was kind of like, what you're getting here is not the song, but you're getting my interpretation of this song.
You're getting me.
My version, which might even be better than the original. Who knows?
What you're getting is me. It's me music.
Yeah, it is.
Is what it is. And if you set out to sing, you know, if you take the United States National Anthem, "Oh, say can you see," you know, Dawn's Early Light, blah, blah, blah. You know, if you'd taken any rendition of that 20, 30 years ago, it would have been, "Oh, say can you say," you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It would have been confidence and so forth. Whereas now the way you do it is you go, "Oh, say. Oh, can you see?" by the Dawn's Early Light. It's like Peter Sellers doing Laurence Olivier, you know what I mean? In song. It's absolutely ridiculous. But we're stuck with it. You know, there's a whole generation. It's not just one generation, it's multiple generations who've come up through, you know, against the background of TV talent shows and so forth, where what you're wanting people to do at the end of it, what you want is Simon Cowell or whoever are your judges, what you wanted them to respond with is, "You really nailed it there. You really did. You nailed it to the wall." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You killed it. You know what I mean? And you sort of think, what do you mean by that, really? Is that the point of singing? To nail it? To kill it? Or is it the point of singing to communicate a song? And it's the thing that strikes me.
It's nothing to do with the song.
When I listen to, you know, great singers of all kinds of different kinds of great singers. When you listen to Frank Sinatra, when you listen to Bob Dylan, oddly enough, you instantly are taken to a place within the first four lines. You know where you are. You know what I mean? They set up an idea very, very clearly. And then they take you with them through the song. They don't swoop off in different directions. They obey the song. That's what they're there to do, to serve the song.
Well, listen, too corny. They're your guide, aren't they? They're walking you down this particular path, and they're showing you this place. But no, this isn't about that at all. This is entirely about me and entirely about self-expression. It's extraordinary.
Anyway, so she's off to rehab. She'll come back singing like Frank Sinatra. So that's something to look forward to.
I think she may do well out of this. My feeling is that in America, well, we've seen a lot of this with Trump, actually, but, you know, the worse he behaves, the more popular he is, because a lot of people respect this kind of idea of honesty. And a lot of people look at public figures and think, we've all done it. You know, we've all been there, whatever terrible thing they might have done.
We see. I don't want to
just look at her and think she isn't fallible. We've all had a drink.
Don't want to get into politics, but I do think the secret sauce of Donald Trump is he's a slob. And everybody thinks, he's a slob, and look where he's got. That's fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this guy's got baked bean stains on his tie.
He doesn't ask of me anything at all.
No,
apart from the fact that I sit on a sofa and, you know, kind of vote for him. That's all that he requires me to do.
I don't have to improve myself.
It couldn't be further from, you know, JFK's, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Donald Trump doesn't ask anything at all. He asks that other people should suffer, not him, and not the people who vote for him. That's basically the idea. Sorry, shouldn't go down that particular.
No,
that particular.
While talking about people doing versions of songs that they want you to believe are better than the original, did you see that? I sent it to you. I think the Total Guitar magazine's greatest cover versions.
Yes.
Did you see that? I thought it was just so interesting because we've all got those greatest hits lists, obviously designed to get your goat, you know. And it was quite. I mean, the top 10 was Jimi Hendrix all on the Watchtower, and Johnny Cash's Hurt, and Jeff Buckley's Hallelujah, Van Halen, You Really Got Me. Santana, Black Magic Woman, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Voodoo Child, Aretha Franklin, Respect, Cream, Crossroads, Beatles, Twist and Shout, Guns N' Roses, Knocking on Heaven's Door. But you kind of look at those things and just think, what constitutes a great cover version? It's difficult, isn't it? Because, you know, Blondie's Hanging on the Telephone is a great cover version, but then we don't really know the original. It's just a version of a song, isn't it?
I do, actually, oddly enough. I've got
Oh, do you know it?
It's the Nerves.
Oh, right.
It's Jack Lee wrote it for the Nerves.
For the Nerves, that's right. It was. No, you're right. It was the Nerves. But there are a few examples, I think, of cover versions that are genuinely better than the original. I'm going to go with Tainted Love by Soft Cell.
Oh, okay.
I think better than Gloria Jones. I think it is. I think Nina Simone's Baltimore is better than Randy Newman's. I mean, they're completely different, but I actually prefer it better than Randy Newman's version.
The Tainted Love. Can I just butt in?
Yeah.
The story of Tainted Love is an absolutely astonishing story, isn't it? That it was recorded by Gloria Jones, who subsequently married Mark Bolan. Of course, when did she record it? In the 60s? Something like that?
I think it was late 60s, yeah.
Late 60s.
Huge kind of Northern Soul club.
But the point is, it did nothing. Did nothing at all.
Yeah, nothing at all.
Only years later, it gets taken up in Northern Soul circles and becomes one of those kind of rare classics that people love to hear and to dance to and to pursue and to, you know, trade second-hand copies of and so forth. And at that point, Mark Armand, beg your pardon. Mark Armand is working, is a cloakroom attendant, isn't he? In a club in Leeds.
In a club.
And he hears a DJ playing Tainted Love and he just loves it. And eventually, and this is just a reminder of how, you know, how frail were the kind of filaments that popular music used to travel along. I think he gets the DJ to actually give him a tape of it, make him a tape of it, and on cassette or whatever. And then he goes away and he plays it, and he eventually plays it to David Ball of Soft Cell, and they eventually record it. And doesn't it become America's biggest selling single ever? It stayed on the American singles chart for years. And whether it was the biggest selling or whether it was the longest lasting, I don't know. It's something utterly exceptional, you know. So there's this thing that had come out and it was just another flop, just another, you know, fragment of gravel thrown at the wall of popular music. And everybody thinking nothing's going to happen to that at all. Yeah. And then years later, slowly, via Leeds, you know, via a cloakroom in Leeds, and via, you know, whoever produced it and however they did it, and, you know, when it came out on phonogram and hit in the UK, and then must have become a hit in the US years later, I would have thought, probably via a movie.
Did Gloria Jones write it? Did she write it, do you think?
You know, off the top of my head, I don't know.
I don't know. I just wondered who got the money, because the amount of money if you have a number one single for 8 weeks.
It was in the American charts for years. It was just absolutely exceptional. So, sorry, going back to your particular...
No, that's a good story.
Your particular choices.
So, no, just there were others. I think Please Mr. Postman by the Beatles, better than the original.
Yes.
This is dedicated to the one I love, the Shirelles song by the Mamas and Papas. Mamas and Papas version better, I think.
I don't know the Shirelles. Is it Shirelles originally? Okay.
I think isn't it Shirelles? I think it is.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I know some do opera, but
I'm Your Toy, not terribly well known, maybe I'm Your Toy, Graham Parsons co-wrote by Elvis Costello. Elvis's version better, I think.
Right.
And ones that are really good, I think, are Take Me to the River, the old Al Green song by Talking Heads. Yeah. There's a version of Army Dreamers, very faithful to the original, by The Last Dinner Party. You know, The Last Dinner Party is the only new group to have had any real, any actual group to have had any real success recently. Pet Shop Boys always on my mind. Not better than the original, but it's fantastic. Stones Come On, I think it's just wonderful.
Well, the whole Stones first album. The whole first album is still
it is.
Exceptional cover versions.
Brilliant.
And it's funny you should raise this, because I did this compilation with Demon Records about a year or so ago called Deep 70s, where they very kindly just said to me, just pick a load of obscure 70s stuff that you like, and we'll put it on a full CD, and we'll try and give each of the CDs a kind of an identity of the guy. Anyway, I've done another one, and it's coming out later this year. And the first CD, because we wanted to give each CD an identity, the first CD has the umbrella title Remake, Remodel, and it's just cover versions. I haven't got the track list in front of me, but so I'm trying to remember. I did it ages ago. One of the ones I've got on there is, again, Elvis Costello, because Elvis Costello is brilliant.
You sent it to me.
I did ages ago. Is brilliant at these kind of cover versions. I often think this is
Psycho.
Can I say something controversial about Elvis Costello? Can I say something? I'd rather have him doing other people's songs. I'll throw it in there for what it's worth. Okay.
Whisper it.
We'll get away with it. With it. I said it once, but I think I got away with it. And anyway, the one I nominated on this CD is Psycho. And I think it's written by Leon Payne, and it's kind of dark, gothic country song about somebody who murders their mother. And what am I laughing about?
With a hammer in their hand or something. It's
just terrible.
She's sitting on a bench. It's a wrench, isn't it?
But I think the last line of the song is, "Mama, why don't you get up?
Why don't you get up?
And
you think I'm psycho, don't you, Mama?
You think I'm psycho, don't you, Mama?
Mama, why don't you get up?" Oh, it's just
Elvis
terrible.
Is brilliant at doing that kind of thing. Absolutely brilliant.
It's
and I'll tell you the other person who's also really good at doing this game is finding something in other people's material. Bruce Springsteen is really good at it. You know, there's all kinds of things throughout his career. I think I'll tell you what I also got on this CD. It's just come to me, and I'll tell you what I love. You've probably never heard it, talking to Bruce Springsteen. Sandy, 4th of July, Asbury Park, done by the Hollies. The Hollies made an album, I think, in 1975. I think it's called Another Night. And this is a time when most people had not heard of Bruce Springsteen at all. And they did their version of Sandy with Alan Clark singing. And it's absolutely fantastic. I've also got another one, Bob Seger's Get Out of Denver, as done by Eddie and the Hot Rods on their Live at the Marquee thing. You know, I could play cover versions.
You sent me this track
absolutely forever. Yeah, so that's something to look forward to coming out later.
What's the name of the actual the box set, as it were?
Well, it's called Deep 70s Volume 2, I would imagine. That's
Volume 2?
Yeah, I think that's what it's called. It's funny, going back to your list of the greatest cover versions. So you read from the top: Jimi Hendrix, Johnny Cash, Jeff Buckley, Van Halen, Santana, Stevie Ray Vaughan, and then at number 7, classically, this is what happens. Let me tell you, Mark and I have done these lists millions of times, or we've been there in rooms where people have done lists. And what people always do is they start off with a list, and then about halfway through the second 5 of the top 10, somebody goes, "We should have a woman." That's clearly what they've done there. They've gone, Aretha Franklin, respect. Oh, yes, of course.
Of course.
And it's funny because you sent to me a link. He said Rolling Stone have come up with their greatest album covers.
Oh, they've got a new vertion of the greatest album sleeves. Again, I love these things.
But you sent me the link. I didn't look at the link. But I just tried. I went back to you and said, "Let me guess, Patti Smith's Horses." And you said what? What did you say?
Well, you said it'll be in the top 10 or something. You said number 4, I think it was. In fact, it's number 6. You're absolutely right.
Absolutely.
Shall I just do the top 10 of their...
Well, go on, see if we guess. I mean, you're going to get me a I mean, it's very difficult.
You've not seen it, have you?
I haven't seen it at all, honestly. This is like The Conjurer inviting a member out from the audience.
Guess the top 10
we never met before, sir,
of all time, as rated by Rolling Stone, I think last week. I mean, I can give you some clues as to the ones they've had already, or do you want to go for the top 10?
Yeah, go on. Well, I don't know. I mean, they presumably...
I'll tell you ones they've had already, that they're in the top 100. Just interesting ones, I think. Public Image Metal Box, Cheap Thrills, obviously. On the Beach, Neil Young, with a fantastic car coming out of the sand. King Crimson's The Court of the Crimson King.
Yeah.
Queen is Dead. Good idea, I think. There's a Taylor Swift in there. I mean, it's not particularly fantastic. You've got to have Taylor Swift in there. That's fair enough.
Ridiculous idea.
I know. She's in there. You've got to have her in.
Sake,
Part Life, and it's not a particularly fantastic. Part Life by Blur, which is good. Grace Jones Nightclubbing, great cover.
Right.
Van Halen. You've got to have something a bit risky too. So Van Halen's 1984. Do you remember that the baby that's
with
an angel,
the child?
got a pack of cigarettes.
Yes.
Hey Jira, actually by the Pet Shop Boys, fantastic. Some Girls, again, bit controversial for Rolling Stone now, but there we are. Bitches Brew, Led Zeppelin 4, Freewheeling Bob Dylan. Never mind the Bollocks by the Sex Pistols.
Can I have a wild guess at something near the top? I'm going to have a wild guess because they probably wanted to end up with a winner that wasn't the obvious thing.
That's right, absolutely right. You're right.
This is Rolling Stone. They'll have sat there and they'll have done a list and they'll have ended up with Sgt. Pepper at the number one. And somebody said, "No, you can't have that."
No, it can't be Abbey Road. Can't be Sgt. Pepper.
There you go. I'm gonna. I don't know. Things like the first Velvet Underground album.
Not bad, but it's in there.
Is that there?
It's there. It's not in the top 10, but it's I think it's something like number 11 or 12, actually.
Oh, well, I'm not far off, am I?
That's very astute. No, that's quite right, because you've got to have something something really contemporary in there.
Okay. Is there anything jazzy? Is there Miles Davis's Bitches Brew in there or anything like that?
Yeah, Bitches Brew is about number. God, you are so spot on.
Listen, Mark Ellen, if I'm put on this earth for one thing, it's to get inside the mind of American hacks sitting around a table trying to come up with what feels right for their title. In 2024, it will be Miles Davis.
There'll be two that you wouldn't have got because I couldn't believe they were in the top 100.
Go on, over to you now.
Duran Duran's Rio, which is just genuinely frightful cover, I think. There must be some graphic thing that I don't know about. I didn't read what they wrote. And Prince's Dirty Mind, which I don't think is particularly brilliant either.
Oh, no, it's horrible cover.
Horrible. Dirty Mind.
New Order in there. Then Peter Saville covers those.
New Order in there. Yeah. Right, that's a good one.
So what's number one?
I'm going to give you the top 10. Okay,
go on.
In reverse order.
Here we go.
Number 10, Nevermind by Nirvana. Genuinely great sleeve. Fair enough. Cyndi Lauper's She's So Unusual. It's okay. London Calling by The Clash. Fantastic sleeve. Funkadelic's Maggot Brain.
Don't be silly. Go on.
Yeah. It's number 7 or something. Patti Smith's Horses. Yeah, it is number 6. Yeah. The Notorious B.I.G. Ready to Die, which is the one with the baby. You remember that one?
Right.
Dark Side of the Moon. There's a riot going on. Number 2, Abbey Road. And number 1. I mean, it is a really great sleeve. I know that. And it's all about the graphic design, and it's a iconic, whatever you do. But it is precisely what you're looking for. It's the idea that's unexpected. It is, Dave, Unknown Pleasures by Joy Division.
Okay, well, right, okay.
It's good. It's
a funny.
It is good as
I'm going to niggle it. I'm going to take issue on a couple of points. I don't think Unknown Pleasures is as good a cover as Closer, the second Joy Division. It's just not.
Christ, I'm worried though. It was Closer. Maybe it was Closer. It's the one with the little graphic
with the tomb, on it. It's the Italian tomb on the front. No,
this is the one with the graphic.
Yeah, okay. That's the first one. And I'm going to take issue on another point. You've caught me on this is my ground. This is where I stand. I put it to you, Millard.
A hill you'll die on.
I put it to you, Millard. You cannot have Nevermind as an example of great sleeve design because it wasn't a sleeve.
It wasn't a sleeve. It's a photograph they got from an agency.
No, hold on. Don't. Hold on a cotton picking minute. I think I'm right in saying it did not appear as a cover of an LP until many years later. It came out as a CD. And a CD is a fundamentally different thing. Looks different, feels different, has a different shape, has a different purpose, all kinds of things. I don't think Nevermind, and Alex is in the background about to correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think it actually appeared on an LP, a 12-inch LP, until many years later, until the vinyl boom and all that stuff.
Well, that's interesting.
So it wasn't an LP cover. But
also it was an agency photograph, wasn't it? That they then superimposed the dollar bill, or is the $10 bill on a hook, on a fish hook.
Yeah.
So maybe. Well, that's an interesting thing in itself. Is that how many really great sleeves have there been since the CD boom? And
None.
did that destroy the notion of
None at all.
Of great?
Simply none. And it's proved the point, Mark, that of their 10, I think 9 of them are from the age of LPs. They've proven the point themselves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They were, that kind of design was based on the idea it was 12 inches square.
Yeah.
It was roughly the size of a T-shirt slogan. Roughly the size of a Native American warrior's shield. A CD is a fundamentally different thing. Nobody in the world ever went home with a CD and gone, it's got a brilliant cover.
Got a brilliant cover.
Not ever. No,
they went, oh, God, I've broken the hinge. Now what I'm going to do? It's wrecked. I've broken it already.
This is a junction in the word podcast. It separates that bit from this next bit.
And now we're joined by Alex Gold. Where in the world are you, Alex Gold?
Today, I am pottering sedately through the Messina Straits in Italy, headed straight for Greece and Santorini.
Tough for some people, isn't it, Alex?
Terrible.
Isn't it? Where are you, Mark? You're in Chiswick, aren't you?
Yeah. I'm in Chiswick in unbelievable heat. Well, it will be for you because you're not far away.
It won't
30
last.
degrees outside. Can it last?
It cannot last. It cannot last.
No.
So, Alex, tell us, has anybody joined the ranks of the elect in the last week? I mean, have they become a patron supporter? These people who will be spared at the ending of the world. There'll be a special place for them. They'll check. They'll say, "Have you been good to people? Have you looked after children, small animals, and so forth?" They'll say, "Have you signed up as a patron supporter to Word in Your Ear?" And you better show them your badge, and you'll get ushered away from the fiery furnace, just in the direction of the cloud and the nice comfy chair. Alex, okay, over to you. Who's joined us?
Okay, I have a roll call.
There you go.
Susan, Nick Horn, Simon Hall, Keith Stale, and the following new patrons have all subscribed annually. And if you do subscribe annually, you get 15% off. And they are Matthew Cockcroft, Seamus Balfe, Andrew Thomas, and Chris Wright.
Well, they're all immensely welcome and
great to have them aboard.
Immensely valued. And they will be getting first stab at absolutely everything that we do in full stereo and glowing colour and whatever medium is applicable. And what have we been doing in the last week, Mark? Remind me.
Well, we did an interview with a podcast with Will Hodgkinson, who wrote a book about Lawrence. He formerly of Felt and Denim, which I thought was it's a really original, really funny and clever book. It's just about somebody who's principally a book about failure, actually, if we can say that. I think we can.
And of course that is the true story, the authentic story of popular music, because most people are failures. It's really exceptional to write about success. Slight tangent.
Well, also you can relate to failure. Neil Tennant always used to say at Smash Hits that the 3 arcs of the pop star. There's the way up, which is very exciting. That's a good time to cover them in magazines. There's the top, when they're at the plateau, where they're kind of out of reach. You can't relate to their world at all. They're on a private plane flying across America or whatever. And then there's the gradual decline, where they're returning back to terra firma and returning back to the level that you're on. And that's the moment.
We like them best.
You like them best because they're coming home. They're coming back to you. You might bump into them in Sainsbury's again.
Yes, it's like you've gone to the door and there they are. Oh, I thought you'd be back.
Yeah, I said
you'd be back. There's something There's something Tony Hancock about that. It's absolutely perfect.
I know.
Slight tangent where we were talking about failure. We didn't talk about this, but it struck me in the last few weeks. Did you follow that commencement address that the great Roger Federer gave in the United States? So Roger Federer is, the most successful tennis player of his generation, been at the absolute top of the tree for however many years. And he gave a very good commencement address. And he said to the students, he says, "Do you know how many games I won? What proportion of the games I won that I played, I won?" And yet everybody expects it to be like 95%. It says, no, it's like 52%.
No.
You think, because basically you lose nearly as many as you win. You've just got to keep competing.
But you only remember the successes.
You only remember the successes.
That's amazing.
And I think that's kind of true, So, so Will Hodgkinson's book about...
Yeah, Will, so he's written a book about Lawrence, and we talked to him, and that's out pretty much now, I think. It's really worth hearing, and really, really interesting book too. It's called Street Level Superstar.
We've
that's great.
We've sold out, I'm afraid, of tickets to my Word in Your Ear at Waterstones on September the 3rd. Talking about my new book, I Hope I Get Old Before I Die. So we'll keep you in touch. We'll keep you informed if there's any further activity on that front in terms of additional appearances and so forth. Where's it?
I might just mention a letter, but we always love getting people writing.
We do.
One from old pal of ours, Steve Buckley, we used to work with in the magazine world. It's just such a funny thing. It's all about the fall. We've been talking about the fall, how many members there were. And he said he remembered going to the HMV in Oxford Circus and trying to get in. They were doing a kind of in-store or something like that. And the two guys on the door, who were mates of ours actually, said they heard his accent, his Mancunian accent, said, well, you can come in because you must presumably have been a member of the band.
Absolutely.
There's nobody with a Mancunian accent who wasn't actually a member of the Fall.
Absolutely.
So I thought it was a good point.
He thought he'd missed his way there. He did. He really should have signed up. So Alex, are you coming back to the UK?
Yeah, I'm back. What day is it today? Oh, it's Friday, isn't it? Yeah, I'm back a week on Sunday, 28th. For a day.
Look out, ladies.
Grannies.
He'll be, if you happen to be strolling along the dockside and you see somebody, coming down a gangplank, like Frank Sinatra and Danny Kaye and Gene Kelly and On the Town, wearing full naval whites and a little
with his hat and a rakish tilt,
with a kit bag over his shoulder, and singing "New York, New York is a wonderful town. The Bronx is up the battery down." That will be, ladies and gentlemen, Alex Gold. Look out for it.
This podcast was brought to you by The Word.